No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house, without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law.
I did an interview with my brother about a year ago discussing martial law and Black Friday. And for those of you who don't know, my brother is a combat vet with 19 years military service and was the sergeant in charge of the rear detachment during his unit's most recent deployment to Iraq. He was not deployed due to a medical condition. He recently told me that because of certain circumstances and beliefs, he gave up his retirement and exited the military on September 10th, 2012. I thought that you might be interested to hear why.
Hey, thanks for giving me another opportunity to do an interview with you. Like you said, yeah, I did exit the military on September 10th. And the reason I did so was that in my mind, the military has changed. In my 19 years of service, I have seen so much that has gone on in these past few years that just wanted me to get out. I was going through a medical discharge, a medical retirement, which would have lasted no more than a year's time from September. I couldn't take it no more. I had to get out. I've been wrongfully accused of being disloyal to the military. I have been taken out of the position that I held. I couldn't do it no more. And there are just so many things that's going on with our government right now that is coming back to the way the reserves and the National Guard and maybe even the active duty soldier is being treated. One of the first things that really killed me was my First Amendment. While I was in that uniform, I could not speak freely. I couldn't say certain things, the beliefs that I had that I could say while I was in civilian clothes. Another thing was the forced vaccinations. All these soldiers are forced to take certain vaccinations. The flu shot for one, which is fine. I have no problem with the flu shot. But the H1N1 vaccine that is now in these flu shots, you are forced to take this even if you don't believe in it. If it's religious, it doesn't matter. Your religious beliefs, oh, well, it doesn't matter. You're taking this flu shot. You're taking your hepatitis shots, your typhoid shots. In some cases, the 5 anthrax shots I received. Unfortunately, I'm kind of going through some memory loss because of those anthrax shots. I'm being treated by the VA. Unfortunately, not everything's truthful. So it was just time for me to, unfortunately, give everything up that I deserved, which is a full, beneficial 20-year retirement. But I would have received it with 19 years under medical conditions. So I'm no longer deployable, and it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I couldn't really believe when you told me, but I was wondering if you could talk real quick to the comments that you had made to me about some future things that you see headed our way that you also didn't really seem to want to be a part of.
Oh, sure. I was being in charge of certain things during the time that I was over the training. I was responsible for maintaining and coming up with all the training guides for the training for every month. And I noticed that the training was being pushed to somewhat of like a martial law scenario. There was a lot of civilian law enforcement going on, a lot of non-lethal tactics. Some of the training was, of course, in handcuffing, basic police techniques. The training was guided to riot control training. A lot of it was just pushing certain military units into being put into a martial law scenario. And by some of the research I have done, the people that I listen to, our government has purchased in this past year 1.4 billion rounds of ammunition. Now, this is not just 9 mil. This is all calibers for all the weapons that our government agencies use. Also, which I thought was kind of funny, the Department of Agriculture has purchased 266,000 rounds of ammunition. Now, I understand you have to qualify once or twice a year with your weapon, like I have to do for my federal position. But usually that's no more than 100 rounds per officer. So they needed 266,000. Okay, maybe I can guess 6,000 goes to the officers. What's the other 260,000 for? I don't understand. Before 9/11, we had 9, 10 agencies that were authorized to carry weapons. Now we have 31 agencies. Where are they going with all of this? I'm at a loss, and I see what's going on. I see how just where the country is headed. I can't be a part of it. I cannot be in charge of all of these soldiers and tell them that they need to go do this, even though it might be against their beliefs. It's against my belief, so I can't send them out there to do certain things that FEMA may want them to do under a martial law sort of scenario. You're telling these kids, these soldiers, to go ahead and put some barbed wire around this area and have all the sheep coming to the fence and go ahead and give them food and water and tell them they're okay. I can't do that. I gave all that up because of what I believe and where I think this country is headed for. And watching some of your latest videos, listening to Alex Jones, watching Lindsey Williams, Jordan Maxwell, Gerald Celente, Michael Savage, others, Glenn Beck, whoever, you name it. They're all speaking that this country is headed in a certain direction. And unfortunately, it is headed in that direction. And I'm just afraid of what could happen, and I just can't put soldiers in harm's way of a civilian holding an assault rifle trying to defend his property.
Yeah, in closing, I just really have one last question I'd like to get out here before we wrap this up real quick. I'm interested in your opinion on militias and people forming militias and how you feel about that. It's always seemed to have kind of a negative connotation for me, the word, but I know it wasn't that way in the founding of the country. It wasn't.
No, of course not. Unfortunately, today's society and the word militia means a bad thing. It means let's fight against the government. Most of us who have looked at history know that it was the state militias that fought with George Washington to free this country from the British. Militias, every state had a militia back then. But God forbid you even mention the word militia today. If you look at the National Guard as itself, one of their symbols is a Minuteman, who is a militiaman holding a rifle. No matter where you go, that symbol is there. The militiaman is a symbol of the military, and it was always a good thing. I mean, basically, your National Guard is a militia, but you can't have a militia now. If you mention a militia, there are certain states that have what they call Minutemen, but if you've noticed, a lot of those lately have been put in prison. And that's pretty much, if there's anything more, look up your history. Militia is a good thing and was a good thing. Is it today? No. It just all depends on how you interpret the word itself and the definition.